What if the very idea of gradual self-improvement is a business model disguised as wisdom? I have observed something curious in my wanderings through the lecture halls and boarding houses of Europe. Those who teach that transformation requires years are precisely those who have never themselves transformed. The merchant who counsels patience profits from your paralysis. The professor who preaches gradual progress builds his pension on your perpetual incompleteness. They do not want you to succeed too quickly. Where's the profit in that? Here's the paradox they conceal. The caterpillar does not gradually develop wings through daily exercises in flight. There comes a moment, violent, necessary, absolute, when the old form dissolves entirely before something new emerges. 7 days, and the chrysalis accomplishes what 7 years of careful planning could not. You have been taught to distrust intensity, to fear decisive action, to spread your transformation across decades until it becomes so diluted as to be meaningless. Meanwhile, your life, that singular, unrepeatable phenomenon, drains away in the service of someday. I bring news from the heights. Someday never comes. There is only now, and the now that follows, and then death. Between these stands 1 week. Listen closely. Those who counsel patience profit from your paralysis. I've observed them in the lecture halls of Basel, in the boarding houses of Nice. These merchants of gradual improvement who speak endlessly of the journey while collecting fees for each step you take under their guidance. They are not teachers, but parasites, feeding on your perpetual incompleteness. Why would they show you the rapid path when the slow path ensures their livelihood? Consider the economics of their wisdom. The priest wants you to improve gradually because then you need him indefinitely. The philosopher of systematic ethics wants you to follow steps because his entire profession depends on there being steps to follow. If you could transform in 7 days, you would need him for 7 days. But if transformation requires years, he has secured his pension. I knew a merchant in Leipzig who attended self-improvement lectures for 3 decades. His library of techniques was magnificent. His life remained unchanged. He died surrounded by books promising transformation he never experienced. Why? Because every teacher he consulted had vested interest in his remaining incomplete. Apply this test to any advisor. Does this teaching make me dependent or free? If it promises progress that never culminates in mastery, you are being sold helplessness disguised as help. The truly strong make their students independent immediately. The weak create eternal pupils. Observe which your teachers resemble. Transformation does not accumulate, it erupts. Look at the caterpillar dissolving in the chrysalis. There is no gentle transition, no daily progress toward wings. The old form liquefies completely before something new crystallizes. This is not metaphor, but biological fact. Growth occurs through catastrophic reorganization. In 1879, my health shattered. I had no choice but immediate transformation. The comfortable structures of academic life became impossible. Within weeks, the respectable professor became the wandering philosopher. This was not planned evolution, but forced revolution. The crisis accomplished what years of reflection could not. Examine your own history honestly. When did you actually change, not in vocabulary, but in being? I wager it was not during comfortable times of gradual self-improvement. It was when illness struck, when relationships ended, when positions were lost. Crisis forced what comfort prevented. The bone that breaks heals stronger at the fracture point. Why? Because healing requires complete reconstruction of damaged tissue. The unbroken bone never gains this strength. You fear breaking, but breaking is how nature builds resilience. This pattern appears everywhere once you see it. The forest fire that renews the soil, the fever that purges infection, the bankruptcy that forces reinvention. Nature knows what your teachers deny. We transform through catastrophe, not through careful planning. Your teachers sell you gradual methods because catastrophic truth cannot be commodified. You cannot charge tuition for 7 days. This is why they hide the pattern that nature displays constantly. Your body possesses wisdom your mind denies. The muscle tears and rebuilds stronger. The immune system faces pathogens and develops defenses. The wound heals with tissue more resilient than before. These are not metaphors for transformation. They are transformation itself, occurring constantly in your physiology. Your body has always known. Growth requires stress beyond current capacity. During my years of debilitating headaches, I learned what no book could teach. Pain that would have broken lesser men forced me to discover resources I did not know I possessed. Each crisis became a testing ground. My body, pushed to extremity, revealed capacities that comfort keeps forever dormant. Consider, when does your body strengthen? When you demand more than it currently provides. The comfortable weight remains comfortable. The challenging weight forces adaptation. This is not philosophy, but simple physiology. Yet you have been taught to treat yourself as fragile, to avoid discomfort, to mistake the body's wisdom for danger. The psychology of the invalid produces invalid results. You coddle yourself into permanent weakness. Here's the practice. For 7 days, push slightly beyond comfortable limits. Walk farther than usual. Eat less than feels safe. Sleep less than you need. Observe how the body adapts rather than collapses. Your teachers fear intensity because they have never tested themselves. They project their fragility onto you, but your body knows comfort is the enemy of growth. Crisis is its catalyst. Trust your physiology over their psychology. Now we descend into the crucible. Day 1, to complete inventory, take pen and paper. List every belief you hold about yourself, your profession, your politics, your morals, your relationships, your goals. Write until exhausted. Do not edit or justify. Simply expose everything you claim as identity on paper. This pile of pages reveals how much accumulated debris you carry as you. Day 2, the genealogy. For each belief, trace its origin. From your parents, your church, your teachers, your nation. Mark honestly which you chose versus which you absorbed unconsciously. You will discover to your horror that almost nothing is actually yours. You are a compilation of others' thoughts, a puppet animated by dead hands. Day 3, the great nausea. With your beliefs exposed as borrowed, sit with the void this creates. If nothing was really yours, what remains? This is the most dangerous day. You will want to flee back to comfortable fictions. Do not. The nausea must be fully experienced. I knew a friend from Leipzig who attempted this inventory. On day 2, tracing his Christianity's origin, he discovered it was merely his mother's fear speaking through him. The recognition created such nausea he could not eat for 2 days, but he did not flee. This is the courage test. Can you endure meaninglessness without inventing new meaning prematurely? Most cannot. They grab new beliefs to fill the void before the emptying is complete. This produces false transformation, new content in the same old structure. Endure the dissolution completely. From the void, creation begins. Day 4, discovering desire. With beliefs cleared away, ask at each moment, what do I actually want? Not should want, actually want. Your body knows before your mind admits. Follow the thread of genuine energy. You may discover you must leave your profession, your city, your marriage. Follow it anyway. Day 5, the experimental day. Test your discovered desires. Spend hours doing what energizes you. Notice what you move toward involuntarily versus what requires forcing yourself. The difference reveals your true nature versus your inherited obligations. Day 6, your declaration. Write your new values. Not abstractions, but concrete commitments. Make it brief, fierce, true. 10 principles maximum, each one sentence. This becomes your law, the constitution you give yourself. Day 7, the irreversible act. Everything culminates here. Choose one action that burns bridges to your former life. Send the resignation, book the passage, end the relationship, begin the work you have avoided for years. This act must terrify you. If it can be easily undone, it is not the right action. My break with Wagner was such an action. Irreversible, terrifying, necessary. The letter I sent could not be unsent. This made transformation real rather than rhetorical. Without irreversible action, you have merely contemplated transformation. The bridge must burn. Otherwise, you will retreat when difficulty arrives. Set the date now, not soon, but the specific week. Or admit honestly you will not do this. Both are answers. What is intolerable is claiming you will do this eventually. How do you recognize genuine transformation? The untransformed seeks approval constantly. When criticized, he defends reflexively, unable to separate criticism from identity. The transformed individual considers criticism dispassionately. Is this true? If yes, he adjusts. If no, he dismisses it without anger or justification. This difference, this internal freedom from others' opinions, marks real transformation from performance. I have known men who spoke eloquently of their transformations, yet crumbled at the first insult, revealing their desperate need for validation intact. Contrast this with the rare individual who receives criticism with genuine curiosity. The difference is unmistakable. Apply these tests rigorously to yourself. When criticized, observe your internal response. Defensive anger or genuine curiosity? When you lose something you value, do you see catastrophe or opportunity? When you have unstructured time, do you default to comfort or move toward growth? For 7 days, note your responses honestly. At week's end, review the pattern. Do these responses indicate transformation or merely new vocabulary covering old reactions? The common mistake is confusing intellectual understanding with embodied change. You can know these tests and still fail them reflexively. Transformation shows in what you do automatically, not what you do when remembering to be transformed. The transformed man no longer seeks approval because he has located his value within himself. The untransformed continues performing for validation he calls by different names: feedback, input, perspectives. The hunger remains, only the vocabulary changes. You cannot deceive yourself about whether transformation occurred. These tests reveal truth regardless of what you tell yourself. Transformation manifests in daily patterns. In the boarding houses of Europe, I observed two types. The first endlessly spoke of their transformations while their actual behaviors, the approval seeking, the blame shifting, the comfort chasing, remained unchanged. The second rarely mentioned transformation, but you saw it in everything. How they spent their mornings, chose their companions, responded to insult. Observe relationships. The untransformed surrounds himself with those who validate his self-image, who never challenge him, who reinforce his comfortable assessment of himself. The transformed seeks those who push him toward his highest possibilities, even when uncomfortable. He forms relationships based on mutual growth, not mutual validation. Consider adversity. When position is lost, does the person see catastrophe or opportunity? The untransformed asks, how do I minimize this suffering? The transformed asks, what can I become through this? This single difference in framing reveals everything. Watch time usage. The untransformed watches life happen to him, responding to circumstances, following the path of least resistance. The transformed authors his days from core values, makes decisions despite social pressure, accepts responsibility without comfortable excuses about circumstances. Most striking, the capacity for solitude. Can you spend an afternoon alone without needing distraction? The transformed has become someone he wishes to spend time with. The untransformed cannot bear his own company and fills every moment with noise, with people, with anything that prevents facing himself. These behaviors, not your beliefs about yourself, reveal whether transformation occurred. The proof lies not in peak moments, but in mundane consistency, how you actually live when nothing forces you to perform. You are not what you think you are. The capacity for one-week transformation demolishes the doctrine that has dominated philosophy since Plato, that you possess some stable essence, some core self that must be found or discovered. This is comforting fiction, what remains continuous through transformation. Not your beliefs. Those were destroyed and rebuilt. Not your habits. Those were systematically replaced. Not your identities. Those were revealed as borrowed costumes. What remains is the process itself. The will that can turn against itself to create itself anew. You are not a thing, but an activity. The eternal activity of self-creation and self-destruction. Consciousness is not something you have, but something you do. Consider Luther, who declared, I can do no other. This sounds like determinism, but reveals the opposite. He had chosen his values so completely that violating them became impossible. Not because external forces constrained him, but because he had made himself into someone for whom betraying his truth was inconceivable. This is radical freedom, choosing so decisively that the necessity itself becomes your choice. If you can transform in 7 days, you are radically free and radically responsible. You cannot blame parents, society, circumstances. These explain your starting point, but do not determine your end point. We are precisely as determined as we choose to be. The weak choose to believe themselves determined because this absolves them of responsibility. The strong know freedom is not given, but taken. You have been free all along. You simply lacked courage to exercise this terrible freedom. We return to the beginning. But you are no longer who you were. You now understand. Gradualism was a lie serving those who profit from your incompleteness. Transformation is catastrophic, not cumulative. Your body already knows this wisdom. You possess the architecture for 7-day change. You can recognize genuine transformation in yourself and others. You are radically free. The question is no longer whether 1 week can change your life. The question is, will you let it? I stand at Sils Maria 6,000 feet above man and time, and I see clearly most who read this will do nothing. They will find it interesting, perhaps inspiring, and return to their comfortable lives, telling themselves, someday when conditions are right. But conditions are never right. There's only the decision to leap or the decision to remain safely grounded. If you can change in 7 days, you could have changed years ago. All that time spent preparing was time spent avoiding the decisive moment. This transformation, once begun, cannot be undone. You cannot unsee what day 3 reveals. You cannot return to comfortable illusions after facing their genealogy. Close this book. Set the date for your 7-day transformation, or admit honestly you will not undertake it. No middle ground, no eventually. Either commit with specificity or acknowledge you choose comfort over transformation. The book ends. Your life continues. Everything that matters happens after you close this book. There is no right time, only now, and the now that follows, and then death. Choose.